Hi, we're back up at Treetop Lodge for Connie's Kitchen on OCTV. We've had a lot of fun. We've done a couple of remotes, but we're back at the lodge now because we're getting ready for the holidays. We've been decorating. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. I have had several special requests on what to do with venison. Now, I'm not a big fan of venison myself, or I wasn't until I started learning how to cook it. My husband is a hunter, and he brings home a lot of venison, and mostly he does the steaks and such. But I had him cut me up some stew beef, or some stew meat, and because it's fresh, the first thing I'm going to do is dump it in the colander and rinse it real quick. This is the thing about venison, super, super lean, nice. You have to add some fat to it to cook it. And we discovered through trial and error that you have to cook it fast. Because the lack of fat, if you don't cook it fast, it gets really tough, and that's when most people say, I don't like venison, it's tough and it's gamey. But it doesn't have to be. So we're going to make some stew. Now, I was going to show you how to remove the silver skin, but my husband did such a good job cleaning these that I don't have to. But normally, the silver skin would be like a little white bits, like pieces on there, and you'd want to cut that away because that is tough. So, as I said, no fat. I discovered the easiest way to add some fat is bacon grease. So I'm just going to put some bacon grease right in my pan, and that's just going to give it a little bit of lubrication because we're going to sear it quick, and then it's going to go in a crock pot. So let's get that in there. This isn't a large quantity because I just make it a small pot for now. Rinse my hands. Remember, when you're working with fresh or raw meat, you wash your hands a lot because you don't want to transfer things. And now we'll do some seasoning. You have to always season your meat before you start because that's really your only chance to season the meat. Once it begins to cook, it really won't absorb too much. And then this is just some powdered garlic. For some reason, I find when cooking venison, if I want to get garlic into the meat right away, powdered better than fresh. It just seems to take it, coat it, and then we get a little caramelization started on it. So I'm just going to put this here, and this is going to be one of those cases where I'm going to listen to it because it's going to cook fast. And we don't want to overcook it. So while that starts cooking and I start listening to it, I'm going to start getting some vegetables ready. This is the towel I just drained the meat on, so that goes in the biz bag immediately. Now, we're doing, for a hearty winter stew, root vegetables. This is a parsnip. Parsnips are kind of like carrots, but they're a little bit stronger, but they really cook down nice in a stew. So we're going to just peel it like a carrot. And I am going to put carrots in, but I seem to have misplaced them, but they'll get in there. Gotta have carrots in a stew. So my Canadian relatives like things like parsnips and rutabaga. I'll tell you about rutabaga. My mom loved it, and as a kid, she always made it for Thanksgiving. Stuff smells god-awful. After my mom passed, I discovered I couldn't cook Thanksgiving dinner unless I cooked rutabaga. Nobody ate it, but I needed the smell in the house. It was very comforting. So this, as you can see, it's big, thick root vegetable. I'm just going to chop it up, rough chop, because this stuff's all going to sit in a crock pot and get nice and tender. You can hear my meat starting to sizzle back there. If you really learn, I've mentioned this before, to listen to things when they're cooking behind you, you can actually multitask a lot more effectively. So we're going to add that. We're going to add onion, of course, some celery, a potato, and we'll make a gravy. And it'll go in the crock pot and sit until we're ready for it. Gotta have our onion. These smaller cooking onions are a little bit sweeter, so they play off the root vegetables nicely. And my meat is getting louder, so I'm going to give it a quick stir. All I'm doing in the pan is caramelizing it, just searing it a bit, because the true cooking and tenderizing is going to come in the crock pot. So, I'm going to give it just a little bit of a toss around. Right at this point, it doesn't smell like venison. It smells like bacon. Oh, I shouldn't laugh. Oh, well. I'm going to reach into my stock of weird leftover wines. I always like to add a little bit of red wine to this when it's happening. That pretty much cooks off, but it gets into the meat nicely. So we just got to keep an ear on that. And we are back to onions. So even as we're filming this, our last episode, which was episode 7, is getting ready to air in the next couple of days. And that was where we did a covert Christmas dinner, or holiday dinner for some friends of mine. And oh, were they happy. They were thrilled. After everybody left, I set the table, nice tablecloth and napkins, cloth napkins, the good china. Get some celery going here. Candles. And everything went just as planned. They all got home at different times. They had their appetizers, glass of wine, and then dinner was ready, and everybody sat down and enjoyed a nice meal together, which was my plan, and they were very grateful. And as you can see, other than the prep of the chicken that I'd done the night before, that wasn't about half hour of my time to get that all together, and it meant the world to them. So we got our celery in. Potato, I already washed it. And you know me, I don't peel my potatoes. I like them, get that extra, there's something about the flavor of potato skin that I just really like. Oh, see now the venison, starting to smell the garlic, a little bit of the red wine, the bacon flavor is kind of backing off. Because using so little, it lubricates the meat, but it really doesn't, it's not adding a lot of salt or fat to it. Then we're going to reserve whatever liquid is in the pan to make our gravy for our stew. And that is just about browned enough. Venison is a funny thing. I know a lot of people say, oh, I hate venison. It's dry, it's gamey. I think it's all about cooking it because I never used to like it either. But as I said, we discovered, especially when cooking the steaks and such, get the grill screaming hot, and that steak's going to go on there for maybe 3 minutes per side, and it's going to come off juicy and tender and flavorful. And venison really takes well to a marinade also. So those are things you can do. Same thing with wild turkey. We'll talk about that a little bit. But try venison. If you get the opportunity and your neighbor comes over and says, hey, I got a deer, and you go, oh, gee, thanks. Play with it. Or give me a call and I'll tell you what to do with it. Have it really is a whole different experience. And it's healthy, very, very healthy. So I'm going to cut into this rutabaga now, and have our vegetables together. See if I can't. I am going to cut away the rind on the rutabaga, by the way, because that's got a waxy finish on it. And so by the time we get back, I should be able to throw the meat in the pot, build a gravy, and then let her rip. So. And rutabaga in things tastes pretty good. It's got a sweet flavor. So you should try it. Try things you don't normally do. See you back here in just a few, and I'll be wrestling with this.
Hello, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And together, Dave and I host a program called Minutes by Minute. We discuss what local Oxford and Addison politicians and appointed representatives are doing to make your life happy or miserable by passing laws, ordinances, and regulations that affect you.
We believe that within those political decisions is humor. You just have to hunt for it. For example, did you know there's a local ordinance that allows people to shoot off fireworks 24 hours a day, 365 days a year? But since they can do it, nobody wants to do it.
Catch us Monday through Friday on Charter 191 and ATTU Verse 99, scheduled for 7 a.m., 11 a.m., and 10:30 p.m., or go to our webpage, occtv.org, and click on Programs. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny. Each week, catch us on Minutes by Minute.
Don't miss it.
And we're back, and the meat is ready. Now this is going to seem odd, and I know I do a lot of what you consider odd things, but I'm going to zest a little bit of orange over the meat. No, lemon. Okay, Connie, it's been a busy season. Just adds a brightness that I like. And you know me, I put lemon zest in everything. Now there's our finished venison. It's not over browned, like if you were doing regular beef where you have a lot of fat and it would get that char. Don't want to do that with venison because it will get dry on you. So I'm going to take it directly into the crock pot. Now I'm going to add a little bit of my fresh chopped garlic. I'm going to set this on the heat right into its crock pot cradle. And then we're going to build a quick gravy for it. I always have the best intentions of not making a mess in the kitchen, and then I do. So I'm going to turn this on to high. Once we get it up to high, then we'll turn it back down. Now I'm going to take what's reserved in the pan, and there's not much because there's no fat. So that's a little bit of our red wine and a little bit of the bacon fat, I guess. First thing I'm going to do is build a roux, which is a base for a gravy or sauce. And that is the simplest thing in the world. I'm going to throw some butter in there. Get the butter melting. Lost my towel. And now I'd tell you before, while this is cooking, if you're making a large quantity, take your stock, whatever you're going to use to build your sauce, and your flour, put it in a container that you can shake. Shake it up real good. You'll have no lumps and a lot less whisking. So I'm waiting for the butter to start. As you watch the rest of this episode, you're going to see shots of the rest of the lodge ready for the holidays. We did a peacock theme this year, a lot of purple and green and blue. Big 13-foot tree, and the mantle's decorated. And you'll also see 2 manger scenes. The one that you see that's all in color was hand-carved by my dad in 1953. It's all very primitive, done with balsa wood and painted. The other one is all natural woods. Each figure is carved out of a different piece, and I bugged him for years to make me a manger, and he finally did. And then for the next few years, he added more pieces. So I brought them up here so that everybody could enjoy them. All right, so our butter is melted. I'm going to whisk it into the existing stock, and then I'm going to take some flour, and all this is doing is creating a thickening base. Okay? Now at this point, if I made venison stock, I would use it. And I haven't yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to. So see, that's just, all that's doing is getting thick, but not lumpy. And then I'm going to start to gradually add some, in this case, beef stock. And then that flour, the roux as it were, will thicken the beef stock and what we have left in the pan and begin to build a gravy for us. And I kind of go back and forth. This is not, it's not about exact measure, and of course it's me, so. If it starts to seem a little bit runny or you don't have quite enough, toss in a little bit more flour, but kind of feather it out. That's how you avoid the lumps. Ooh, listen to that sizzle. This is where a whisk comes in very handy. So it really moves the stuff around. Oh, that's getting nice and thick. There we go. Now see, what few lumps I have are breaking down nicely. So, you really don't want to walk away from that too much. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And there is our gravy. Depends on how much gravy you want. Sometimes the gravy will cook down when you're making a stew because it sits for so long. See how simple it is to make more? You don't have to open a jar. This is all fresh, healthy, made by you. And if you want, you can leave a couple lumps in if your family likes lumps. I've actually had people say, is this from a jar? Because there aren't any lumps. Oh well. All right. Simple, fresh, and you did it yourself. Just going to pour that directly in here. Goes on high. And after it's come up to a boil, I'm going to let it go for about a half hour, then turn it down to low or warm for however long I want, several hours, until we're ready for dinner. So there you have it. We built a stew, we made our own gravy, and we used venison. And even I like it. And when I serve it to people that don't like venison, they like it. So now I want to put together a salad. And I've been experimenting with kale. I wasn't too crazy about it. I actually bought it the first time for my guinea pig. And I've started using it more and I like it. And people that I serve it to seem to like it. So I'm going to go back to my old trick here. Combination of my rock and chop and scissors. And let me find the kale here. And that, my friends, is kale. So I'm just going to, and I found these have a rib in them. See, there's a rib in the back. And I'm going to tear right along that rib because that's too chewy. I mean, it's nice to have a little substance in your salad, but not too chewy. So we're going to mix up some spinach, some parsley, some kale, some fresh tomatoes, some red onion if I see some lying around because, well, it wouldn't be my salad if I didn't use some red onion. And then we're going to dress it with a raspberry vinaigrette. And I'll tell you how, that's real simple. Balsamic vinegar, olive oil, salt and pepper. And then a couple weeks ago, raspberries were everywhere. And so I took some raspberries, cooked them down slightly and mashed them. And then blended that into my vinegar and oil base. And even my husband, who always says, raspberry vinaigrette, that's too sweet, he loves it. Of course, I made him taste it before I told him what it was. There's the parsley going in. I like to do this real fresh and a lot of texture because by the time the stew is cooked, it's going to be, of course, very soft. So I want to add some different texture here. And there's nothing like the smell of fresh parsley. And again, I'm lucky because any stems and stuff I have left over, I take home to my guinea pig. And that makes her very happy. Oh, that's mint. Don't want to use that. That's for something else. Here's my spinach. My spinach got really wet when I washed it, but that's all right. I'm just going to tear some up. Just adds another dimension. See, I didn't even have to cut any of these today. See that? I love all the different textures in the greens. And yes, a lot of times I do use the stems. Not using them today, though. Chop up a combination of some of our golden tomatoes, red tomatoes. Then salad is ready, and then when we come back, I will be able to, we're going to take a break here. We're going to go out and play with the unicorns. I'm going to get the guys to do some work around the house for me here. And by the time all that is done, the stew will be ready, and we will whip up a quick dessert, and we'll show you the finished product. So, remember, always use as much as you can of fresh vegetables, especially when we get into the winter. Fresh fruits and vegetables are such a great source of vitamins and all fiber and all the different stuff you need. And with all the colds and flus going around, every little bit helps. You'd be amazed at just eating one helping of salad a day will do for your immune system. So there we go. Oh, I'll get that later. All right, need a little bit more red right on top. And again, salads are easy. You can make it for 1, you can make it for 10. I'll get this done and see you back here shortly.
Hello, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles.
Together, Terry and I host the weekly news Monday through Friday at 12, 6, and 11 p.m.
Broadcast on Charter Channel 191 and AT&T Uverse 99, we only cover news that impacts our local Addison and Oxford area. In other words, by all accounts, news that would normally not receive from any other televised source.
But chances are, if it's local, it will be found on Oxford Community Television and OCTV.
For the weekly news, I'm Terry Stiles.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Together, we invite you to join Terry and me for our next OCTV weekly news program.
when I make, oh, hi, we're back. I'm sorry, I was just talking my salad dressing. We're back at Connie's Kitchen at Treetop Lodge here on OCTV and YouTube. And I mentioned making the raspberry vinaigrette. These are my Sabroso bottles. We all know my Sabroso. I always keep a couple handy so when I make up salad dressing like that, I can make a whole bunch and just keep it in the fridge, especially when we're going to lose raspberries. So this time I wanted to make enough that I would have some for a while. There you go. Oh, so now we've got the almost soft, creamy texture of the stew with the savory venison and all those wonderful root vegetables. Real nice textured salad with a bit of red onion. And then the sweetness of the salad dressing. And I think I'll just leave that right there. Now I'm going to make, I don't know, I'm playing around. I felt like I needed to make something fruity. I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to cook it. I think I was watching something on TV last night that mentioned green apples and mint. And I thought that might make a fun little dessert relish. So I'm not going to cook it. I'm just going to dice some up. Now we're going to get some real sharp texture and then some fresh mint. Oh, there's nothing like it. This I don't give to my guinea pig. Get some fresh mint in there. And what? Some lemon zest. Okay. A little bit more apple here. Again, I leave the skin on when I'm doing something like this. I like the chew. I like the texture of it. And this, I think, will make a nice, crunchy final act to our dinner. And this is where it's going to get a little bit weird. But as you've seen before, weird works. I wanted something savory. I didn't want balsamic because I've got balsamic in there. Didn't want garlic because... So I'm going to just drizzle this with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And we shall see what happens with that. And that is a little bit of dessert. And of course, always have a little bit of salt and pepper. Stir it up. And now that my crew of very fine boys have finished all their chores, they can have lunch. So let's get the stew out and see how it looks. A little bit of tidy up here because the mess drives me nuts. Oh, you know what? Let's do a little zhuzh of sugar on there too. Sugar and Worcestershire sauce. You saw it here first, folks. Alrighty. Here comes my crock pot. And we have, we're going to drop that lid. So while I'm getting this together, I'll do my usual sales call here. Remember, you can always call me at 248-933-4579. You can hit us up on Facebook, Treetop Lodge Oxford. And you could email me at stormy3958@att.net. Now tell me that isn't beautiful. Look at that. A little bit of the extra gravy that we made. And it smells wonderful. My mother would just be amazed that I make stew, because when she made stew as a kid, I always turned my nose up at it. But like a lot of things, you play with it, work with it, becomes a whole different thing. Now I'm going to use my vintage 1970s electric knife. There's so many of these wonderful breads that we're getting now. They're great. They're just really hard to cut. So I dig out the old Hamilton Beach Scoville, and I can cut right through it, especially when I'm doing a large quantity. And we have lunch. We have our beef stew. We have our salad. We have some fresh bread. And we have an unusual dessert. But if you were standing right here smelling everything I'm smelling, it all goes together. So let's give it some bread, our stew, and our dessert. And there you have venison stew with root vegetables. We have our fresh bread, our wonderful salad, and kind of an apple mint medley as a last touch. So I hope I hope this has been fun. Remember the key with venison: cook it fast, cook it hot, and watch it. My husband also brings home wild turkeys. No fat on these birds. I don't know how it is that they're so juicy. We generally throw them in either the big crock pot or use the roasting bags. And they're wonderful. He just breasts them out. We don't worry about the feathers and the skin and all that. And you just get that wonderful, fresh, clean essence of turkey flavor. And then on the last day when you're sick of eating turkey, you grind it up and make croquettes. So don't be afraid of wild game. If you know the hunter, if you're the hunter, or you know where it's coming from and you know what you're dealing with. And like I said, you can always give me a call. I'm learning all the time. And I'm going to make some venison stock. So when I start making stews, I will have, rather than beef stock, I'll have my venison stock. So other than this, we're just busy up here at the lodge getting ready for the holidays. People are coming to visit. So give me a call. People are starting to book up like crazy for next year. I already have bookings from January through May. We still have a lot of open space, but don't delay too long. Wine dinner, December 28th. And soon I will publish the dates for January and February's wine dinner. So come back and join us again. I have such fun here. This, if you're keeping count, is episode 8. And I love doing it, and I love my guys here. And it's been a lot of fun for all of us, I think. So again, I will say from all of us up here at the lodge and at OCTV, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a peaceful New Year. Enjoy your family and friends. Take time to share. Have a meal together. See you soon.
Hello, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And together, Dave and I host a program called Minutes by Minute. We discuss what local Oxford and Addison politicians and appointed representatives are doing to make your life happy or miserable by passing laws, ordinances, and regulations that affect you.
We believe that within those political decisions is humor. You just have to hunt for it. For example, did you know there's a local ordinance that allows people to shoot off fireworks 24 hours a day, 365 days a year? But since they can do it, nobody wants to do it.
Catch us Monday through Friday on Charter 191 and ATTU Verse 99, scheduled for 7 a.m., 11 a.m., and 10:30 p.m., or go to our webpage, occtv.org, and click on Programs. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny. Each week, catch us on Minutes by Minute.
Don't miss it.